If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of yWrite, where we talk with writers about why they write and discuss why you should be writing also. As you know, we all have those stories inside of us, and if you don't write your story, who's going to do it? And I have a guest here today who's going to talk about how she found her calling to write. Because there is this calling to write. There is something that is deep inside you that will tell you that you need to share your story or to tell a story, whether it's fictional or non-fictional. And, who's going to tell that story other than you? And, for those of us who are Christian, I'll just say that, we definitely know that when a calling comes to us because it's placed on our heart and we know we have to follow through with this. My guest today wrote a book called Love Changes Everything. And I'm going to tell you that this book is a very wonderful book. I'm going to show it right now. It's called Love Changes Everything, and it's a very fast read, at least for me. And it really does change a lot of how we think about what we do in the world and what our purpose is and what our calling is. So today I have with me my guest, Donna Marotto. Donna Marotto is a Catholic licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of Connecticut. I know her personally because we worked together at St. Thomas Church in West Springfield, and she is the Faith Formation Director there, where she helps children and teens grow in their faith and prepare for the sacraments of their Catholic faith. But besides working in the Catholic Church, she has this deep love to help other people. And her work history is extensive. She has had over 16 years of work experience with at-risk youths and teens and with young adults in jail diversion programs and group home settings. She definitely has been sent from above to help people. And, when you have love inside you, love changes everything, which is exactly why I want Donna to be here on the show today because, like me, she's a mom, she's Christian, and she's a writer. So welcome to yWrite.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Angela.
Donna, you wrote this book, and it's called, Love Changes Everything, an invitation to know the healing power of God. Tell me, when did you write the book? Let's talk about a little bit of that.
Well, I started writing it during COVID, actually. And my original plan my original plan started in 2015, and I had a conversion experience, and I wanted to interview people and to find out their stories and to put it in a book. So I did interview about 10 people, and in church communities and also outside of church communities, and to hear their stories and how God changed their life and so forth. So then time passed. And then so I was working full time, and so time passed, and I kept saying to myself, I got to write this, I got to get this out there.
When it's placed on your heart, it nudges and nudges and nudges.
Right. So when COVID came, I had time, and so I contacted publishing companies, and so I went through Westbow Press Publishing Company, and they're a Christian publishing company. And when I gave them my manuscript, they said the only way I could get that story out there is if I had written permission of the people that I interviewed.
Oh, you're bringing up some really great topics. So one, you had the written manuscript before you contacted the publisher, correct?
Yes.
And two, because you're telling other people's stories, and not that you're telling them, but you've interviewed them, so you're including it in your book, you had to get written permission from them.
Right.
But what did that entail?
But the thing is, I didn't get written permission.
Oh.
So it was only verbal permission.
Ah.
See, I didn't know this
Yes.
until I started contacting the publishing companies.
Yes.
I didn't know the logistics of it.
Yep.
So she said I could either do two things. I could go by a pen name,
okay,
and publish it that way. That wouldn't be my name.
Right. But you didn't go that route.
Nope.
Okay, I'm thinking, did you go that route? Because if you did, I don't know your real name. I think it's Donna.
So I just figured, okay, I'm gonna just wipe that whole thing out and just start all over.
Okay. Which is a big thing when
Yes.
you have to pull stuff out of your story that you
Right.
know you want in there.
I know, and I wrote the whole thing, and it was like 140, 50 pages.
Yeah. It's
So-
hard. That's
so I
what
had
they
to-
call killing your
So I
darlings.
had to write the whole thing over. And
Wow.
so, but it was during a time where I was able to do it.
Yeah.
So what I did is I figured, okay, I have a clinical background, and I was going to write it from a therapeutic stance, and then also invite the spirituality part in it.
Yes.
So I combine those two together.
Yes.
So the spiritual and the
Yeah, and you
and the
definitely do
therapeutic.
a really good job about it, but it's also very personal.
Mhm,
Do you know what I
right,
mean? It's
right.
not like a therapeutic self-help book in a way. It's a story. It's your story
Right.
with the therapeutic help, with the spiritual help, and even, when someone tells you a story, it becomes part of your story.
Right.
So then you almost have that permission to share, to say, oh, I was talking to someone and this was their experience, without naming them, because then you'd have to, like you said, get their written permission. So
Yeah, I mean, because time passed, and it was like 3 or 4 years. So, and I didn't have contact with those people, so I didn't have their phone numbers, I didn't have their email
Yeah.
addresses. So it was, so I just figured it'd be easier to start over. And I did bring it to prayer, and I did pray about it. And so it took about about June, July, August, September, about that amount of time, a few months.
I
write it.
have tears when I have to do like a rewrite like that, because
Yeah.
it's so big. And one of the manuscripts I'm working on now, I've been toying with that idea, because it's written right now I have it in like the first person tense of the character, but I could change it to just the omniscient, so that it's showing the story more than telling it from the inside. And thinking about that, I'm like, this thing's already, like, my manuscript's done. So it's like, do I want to go back and change all of that? Because editing is hard to do anyways, because
Right.
especially your own work.
Yeah.
I can edit someone else's work because, I can say, okay, that's what, this is what they mean. But when we're doing our own, we're like, we think, we don't need to make changes.
Right, right.
So what was your writing schedule like? Did you write every day for that? Did you just have like this huge download that just came? I mean, obviously you had a lot of research for the first draft I'm talking.
Right. So I did a little each day. So
Okay.
I did like about 15 minutes each day, and it kind of broke it up.
Yeah.
That way it was easier to do.
Yeah.
Rather than do it like the whole day, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. And that's what I want to stress to the audience who does have that story to tell. People are saying, where do you start? And I mean, 15 minutes a day, and we have finished product. And I know, I did the same a little bit with Dear Baby Get Out, but April and Angel's Journey was a binge day.
Okay.
That was an all-day sit-down thing.
Oh, okay.
And April Rain was kind of a 20-year research.
Oh.
That was a really long process. And again, making sure that you have your facts that you want to include without trying to do something that doesn't have permission. And obviously, as a clinician, I mean, you're a therapist, more than just a clinician, but as a practitioner, you have that knowledge of knowing what is important to put in to help people grow in their faith, but also to grow developmentally. How did writing a book help you with your marriage and family therapist action? Because I feel like people would read it and be like, she knows what she's talking about. She had this awakening, and I need an awakening, and go get help.
Oh, how did it help me as a therapist?
Yeah, as a therapist, or even how it helps your clients.
So that's a good question. So in graduate school, when I was working on my master's, one of my professors, I remember him saying this in class, saying, if you're going to help other people, you got to help yourself. So I didn't really understand what he meant. And so, meaning if you have stuff that you need to work on, you got to work on it.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to be able to help other people.
Right.
And so when I was going through my conversion, it was actually right after my aunt died. I had really bad anxiety. It was really bad, like panic attacks and so forth. And so
you knew you had to.
I knew
help
I needed
yourself.
help.
Yeah.
I knew. So I'm a therapist, and I'm thinking, okay, if I have anxiety, how am I going to help other people who struggle with anxiety? So I did seek a therapist. It was a Christian therapist. I really connected with him. He helped me a lot. And then by the grace of God, God healed me. So And that's in the book.
And,
actually, the story's in the book
and
how he did that.
And healing, we always look, I think a lot of people look for healing outside of ourselves, but it can come through us.
Right.
But it comes through us sometimes with the help of others.
Yes.
You know, I mean, obviously, you know, doctors provide medicine and options and therapists. And, you know, I love that you sought out a therapist, because I do think that, you know, being a therapist, like you said, how are you going to help others if you don't help yourself first? And understanding what someone's going through obviously is easier when you've kind of gone through it yourself. Not that we want to go through these experiences, but it does help you, you know, to share your story. There's something I saw the other day that said, you know, the tragedy or that you went through could be someone else's survival guide.
Right. That's
and you know, and it's like, it's so true, like how, you know, you kind of walked away from your faith a little bit, and then you know, had this conversion and came back, and then you're writing this story, you know, about knowing the healing power of God and how love changes everything, loving yourself, you know, and loving others. When you were in your conversion, did you think like that you were going to write a book about this?
No.
Did you journalize about it at all?
No, it took years.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't until, I'm trying to think when, I think when I was in spiritual direction, that's when I really got the thought.
Yeah.
So spiritual direction is, you have a spiritual, it could be a layperson or religious, a priest or, you know, a nun or something like that, or a layperson, and they guide you, but it's really the Holy Spirit that guides the session, and in going in deeper and doing a lot of inner reflection, that's when I heard that, like, you know, I need to do this, I need to write this book.
Yeah.
So
and that is a huge message, that even when, you know, I would take my manuscripts into church and pray and say, what am I doing? Why am I writing this? What am I supposed to do with this? And time again, it would be, if you don't, who's going to? You know, and if you don't, no one's gonna be upset that you didn't do it, but isn't it a shame you didn't try? And, you know, I think about like the gentleman who invented stents for the hearts. On a side note, like I think about him a lot, because, you know, and I did know his name. I can't remember it right now, but it's like there's a man, you know, he thought in the middle of the night, oh, if I put this in someone's heart, maybe it could help them live longer.
Oh yeah.
And that's a crazy idea. You know, like, oh, if I write a book, love changes everything, it could change the world. It's like, wait a second, that sounds like a crazy idea, but he followed through with it, and he saved many lives. And you followed through with this. And if he hadn't, you know, thought of that crazy idea and followed through with it, no one would know.
Right.
When the world, we just wouldn't know. No one would be mad about it. But the fact that he did makes all the difference. And same with you. I mean, you know, anyone who writes a story, it is so empowering for other people.
Right.
And the anxiety that goes with publishing can be a little scary.
Yep, actually, I didn't have much anxiety with publishing. No.
Okay.
I mean, I did get a lot of no's.
Yeah.
So that...
little rejections.
I researched tons of publishing companies, and I think Westbow Press was like the only one that...
Yeah.
That one and another one. There was like
that's when you know it's meant to be. I know. I just kind of peeked at my rejections
Yeah.
the other day, and I'm like, oh, wow, I kind of forgot there were that many. I'm like, okay, put it aside. And then you get some that are still in process, and they're thinking, and, you know, and then you just take it on and say, God, how is this going to happen?
Right.
So you discuss in the book, I want to talk a little bit about in the book, the choices that we make in life can determine our eternity.
Okay.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on it? Because
Sure.
myself, as a, you know, someone who believes in the afterlife, like I know what you're talking about, but, you know, other people, you know, it's a thought to have.
Right. So, yeah, the choices that we make do determine a lot. Like, there are consequences, whether bad or good, and what we do, our behaviors. So whether we choose love, goodness, kindness to others, loving other people, forgiving others, versus the vices where we, like, if we don't forgive, that actually hardens the heart. And then if there's anger, actually anger can lead to revenge, to bitterness, and to murder, actually. That can can lead to that. But so there's like the virtue versus the vice. Yeah. So are we on the path to virtue, or are we on the path to vice? Like which and the good, it's kind of like the angel and the devil on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, are you choosing
Eat that
good?
cookie. Don't eat the cookie. Eat the cookie. Eat 5. Okay, just have 1. I let them negotiate for me.
Yep. So when we do have a relationship with God, we do have that inner knowledge of knowing like what's good and what's not good.
Yeah.
So.
And you share it eloquently and educationally in this story. I call it a story, but it's a book. It's a journey, and it not only is part of your journey, but there's so much in there that can resonate with, even when I read it, resonate with my journey and understanding, not just the spiritual direction in life, but, it's your direction in life and what you should be doing and how it can influence the ripple effect of your own life.
Right. And as a therapist, I put it in the book as well, because I've worked with teens who have PTSD, have had a lot of trauma in their lives. And some people don't have that role model as parent growing up. They never received love, or they've had a lot of trauma and bad things have happened to them.
Yeah.
So they don't know where to go. They don't know what to choose. But it's never too late. So in the book, I mentioned that God's grace can save like everybody. I'm like, he's here for everybody. But and he puts people in our lives for a reason to lead us back to him. So it's it's a journey.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a journey, and it unfolds differently for everyone.
Yep.
But love changes everything is for me like just reminding even myself that when you understand someone and you can love them even when they've done you wrong, it changes the circumstances of so many things. And it also becomes like a mirror to yourself. That golden rule, treat others like you want to be treated. And, that's a really great way of a little bit of summing up your book too, and even just the journey of writing a book, because, you want to give to somebody what you most need also.
Right.
And, I don't know, it's very important to share stories. So I wrote down a couple questions that I wanted to ask because, I know that besides being a marriage and family therapist and, writing this book, you also are a member of Unbound, and you were called to a lay order of ministry. And, being part of, the ministry circle to minister to people, we need to share our words. So can you tell us a little bit about Unbound? Tell us a little bit about what that call was. I know it had a little bit to do with a little bit of the conversion too, obviously.
Right, okay. I'll try to keep it short.
Got plenty of time.
So Unbound, I actually found it by accident. So I was going through the lay ministry program in the Archdiocese of Hartford. And one of the women that is in my class, she gave me this pamphlet. And it said, forgiveness is your key. And it has a key on it. And she hands it to me, and she goes, here, you should use this with your clients. And I looked at it, I'm like, I don't really know what this is.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of put it off in my room somewhere at my house.
Yeah.
And a few months later, somebody who I was sharing space with, we had a private practice together, so we shared the space. And so my friend Jason comes to me, and he brings me this book, and he goes, hey, I have this book I want you to read. And on it has the same key. And it says Unbound.
Oh.
And it says, I look at it, I'm like, this is kind of interesting. I'm thinking this is not a coincidence.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the synchronicity of things I see is where you find your divine path.
Right. So he said, it's not just a book, it's a ministry. And he said, we can go down to Philadelphia, we can go for training and so forth. And I said, okay. So we Googled the website, and the website is called heartofthefather.com. And it has all of the events on the website. They're called Freedom in Christ conferences. So I ended up going down to Pennsylvania because that's where the main office is.
Okay.
So I went to Pennsylvania for a Freedom in Christ conference, and I thought I was going down for training, which I did go down there, but we were supposed to go together, but he couldn't go.
So you were alone.
So I was alone.
It was really meant for you to go.
So I go down there, and we go into groups, and Neil Lozano and Janet, they're the husband and wife who started the ministry. I'm in their group. And so in order to give Unbound prayer, you have to receive Unbound prayer. So the people in my group, whoever was who lived the furthest away from Pennsylvania, was able to receive prayer. I live in Connecticut, so everybody else was local. So I was the one to receive prayer. And I received it from Neil, and it was about an hour-long session.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he does is he goes through some questions, and he asks, like, have you had any trauma in your life? What was it like growing up? How were your parents and so forth? Are there any people that you need to forgive? Because Unbound goes through 5 keys, and the first key is repentance and faith. The second one is forgiveness. Third one is renunciation. Fourth one is taking authority. And then the fifth one is the Father's blessing. So after I received prayer, I didn't really feel anything afterwards. I felt good, but it wasn't until like the 2 weeks after that I felt a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
It was kind of like going
Just
to...
kind of...
It was
everything's
like a weight.
lifted. And
a weight was
that's
lifted,
how I've heard people.
And it's just like, I just felt so free.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And like when people would say stuff to me, I wouldn't be reactive. It was like I had this peace. It was amazing. And so...
it can help so many people. I mean, therapy helps.
Yep.
Groups like this help. And, asking you questions that you personally are the only one who can answer. And that makes you being the only one who knows the right or wrong, and to be able to forgive it and to allow another person to witness what you're going through and pray for you, talk to you, give you attention. I mean, that's, for me, it's kind of all one and the same. When you're devoting your time and attention to someone, that is a form of prayer, and I think sometimes people get a little weirded out by the names we label things, whether it's called prayer or Reiki or yoga or, it's like, oh, these terms. And I mean, they're all forms of turning inward and, witnessing another.
Yeah. So, so Unbound is helpful if somebody's going through therapy or somebody who's not going through therapy. So what it is, you're going to go inward, like you mentioned, it's inner reflection. So I didn't know, I thought I was just going to be doing this with my clients, but I didn't know that it could be part of a team. And so afterwards, I found a team in Norwich, Connecticut. So in the Diocese of Norwich, there's a team. I contacted them, and I was on the team for about 5 years. And then after that, COVID hit, and we just...
COVID changed everything.
We stopped praying with people. But then when I got a job here in the Diocese of Springfield, I found Mary's House of Prayer, and that's in Chicopee. And I contacted them, and now I'm on the team there in Chicopee. And we meet monthly, and we do have Freedom in Christ conferences 3 times a year. The next one is in October 15th. So.
Oh, yeah. So
So you can get prayer.
And what are the other months that they're held in?
So there's one in October. We usually have it in the spring.
And summer?
Winter and spring.
Winter and spring.
Yep.
Nice. Well, we'll definitely have to, let our viewers know a little bit about that if they're interested. But, reaching and to read Love Changes Everything, is definitely a path to that. You've always been someone who has been on a path of change. And before you were a therapist? You worked for companies like CBS, you worked for ESPN. I mean, we all tend to have these like little lives, little chapters in our book of life. And it's like, how did you make the change from, working in network television, to now, writing in a bound book and working with the Unbound?
Right. Well, again, prayer. So I liked working in television. It was a lot of fun, but I just felt that it wasn't my calling. I felt there's got to be something else I'm supposed to be doing. So I
a bigger purpose or something that felt more comfortable?
Something I wanted to, I don't know, I felt like, because, I like television, but it was very, monotonous. And it was just, the same thing over and over again. I'm like, I got to do something else. So I asked in prayer what I should do. And so it took years, though. It took years to figure it out. And that's when I researched graduate programs for therapy. And then it was just
you went into family and marriage therapy. You went into a ministry of helping others with your faith and, with your prayer life.
Right.
And, sitting down 15 minutes a day.
Yep.
15 minutes a day to write a book. and then how long did the big edit take you to revamp the whole book afterwards?
Oh, yeah. That took a few weeks just to go over and over again. just to make sure
Yeah,
that,
okay. So
that it was right.
all right, a few weeks isn't bad because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I've had this my manuscript now sitting for 12 months, but I've also had a lot of other things going on in my life. But I do think, oh, this is going to take me another year to edit. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, it didn't take
So
that long.
you're going to motivate me to get
Yeah.
moving on that story because, like you've said in your book, when God calls you to do something, when something is placed on your heart to do and you really reflect on it,
Gotta do it.
you got to do it. I mean, you just got to do it. Like, it's not going to hurt anyone. That's
Right,
always my
right.
rule. I always say,
Yeah.
will this harm me or harm someone else? Then no, I don't want to do this. Will this allow someone to have entertainment or education or bring peace, love into their life?
Right.
Then it's important to share because,
Right.
when you create something in love,
Mm-hmm.
it's what we are supposed to do.
That's true. Right.
So where can someone buy this beautiful gem of a book? Because, look, I love the red rose on it. I'm a florist, so, of course, the red rose is
Right,
love.
right.
It's
Yep.
respect. There's so much meaning, behind the roses. And then you have the white
Right.
roses, which are honesty and love and pure love and purity. So, just picking out your cover alone is, people walk by and sometimes, I hate to say you judge a book by its cover, but if
Yeah.
it's appealing to you
Right,
by
right.
what it looks like.
Yep.
And I when I was doing April Rain, I had thought to put sunflowers on the cover. And my husband's like, I would never read a book with sunflowers on it. And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
I never thought of that,
Yeah, yep.
but it depends on what, this is a murder mystery.
Yep.
This screams
Yes,
love right
yes,
here. So
yep.
where can they find your book?
So on Amazon, it's
Okay.
on Amazon. If you Google the name.
And how do they find more information about you or if someone's in Connecticut and want to work with you?
So I also have a website. So my website is youarelovedministry.com.
Okay.
So on the website, it has all my information on there.
Well, we're going to put the Amazon link in the links down below, and we will also put wearelovedministry.com there so you can go and check out what Donna's doing. So thank you so much for coming on.
you're
And thank
welcome.
you for sharing not only the why you write, but the how you wrote and why you are doing what you're doing because it empowers me. And if it's empowering me, I feel like it's got to be empowering, even if it's one other person watching this.
Right.
You know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Thank you. for
Thank
having
you
me.
very much.
Okay.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning into yWrite today, to this great episode. And, just go out and love people, love yourself, and, be kind. That's what we want to do. And then, think about inwardly what you want to do in this world. What have you been placed here to do? So today, before we sign off, I end the show every week with a little prompt. I tell them, pick up your pen. Like I got these cool pens that say yWrite. And set your timer when the show's done. Set your timer for maybe, 10 minutes, 15 minutes for Donna's sake. She did 15. And, you do this every day and, a month you're going to end up having a book. But, today let's just sit down and, I'm going to say our prompt today has to do with how you feel inside that you can share with someone outside. So something that you've either gone through that internally you've learned a lesson or you've had an experience that can help someone, and you might want to start making a list of what they are. It could be something as simple as, I remember that time I first bought a car, or I remember when I made that really big job change. But talk about how you felt then and who was around you, and at the end you're going to have a really nice story for you to reflect on too. So thanks for tuning in to yWrite. My name is Angela Grout, and I will see you next time.